In this video, we are going to look at how to make a weather app using the Open Weather Maps API and get a list of 20 different cities and get their weather. Also, you can refresh them using the refresh button on a browser. You can, on Android, you can just pull down to reload. On an iPhone, same thing, pull down to reload to update these weather conditions just by clicking on the refresh button or pulling down to refresh. So that's what we are going to look at in this particular video. So let's get started. Say Flutter create weather app. That's what we'll call the app. We're on the desktop and we're going to save it on the desktop. Now next, let me open this weather app in our Visual Studio Code. So I have this app open. Now in this particular code, we're going to use two different Flutter libraries or dependencies. In this case, you call them the libraries. One is HTTP to fetch the data, and the other one is Flutter SpinKit for pull down to refresh. SpinKit. So these are the two libraries we'll use. You can always find these libraries by saying HTTP Flutter or Dart package, and that's 1.2.1 is the latest version, so I can take that, and then the next one is Flutter SpinKit. If I've misspelled it, okay, there you go. 521, that's the one that we'll use. You can read more about these packages or what they are here by looking at how you import them, how to use them. So it has all these different options. If you see, the SpinKit has a bunch of different options, but we're going to just use the default one. So next thing, once we have these, if my Visual Studio would automatically download it, but if it doesn't, you can always say Flutter pop-get and it will download those packages for you. Next, we also need to get good Open Weather Map and go to your APIs and get the API, and the URL that we're going to use is not here, not the one called API, but current weather API, and here we have by city name. That's the API that we're going to use. So keep them handy right now, and we'll go back to the application. Now all the application code right now we'll be writing inside this particular project. So let's start with that. So we need the material Dart. We also need port Dart convert. I'll talk about it a little later of why we needed this. Next, we would need the HTTP package. So I'm going to go import package, and the package name is HTTP, and that's what I want, http.dart. I'm going to give it a pseudo name as HTTP. That's what I'm going to use it as. Next one, another thing that I need is package, and this time the Flutter SpinKit. That's the one that I need. That's how I'm going to use it. So these are two things that I need. Now I have my, just get rid of this, get rid of everything on this page. Right now we can write it from scratch. So to start off with, let's create the class myApp, which extends stateless widget. Okay, that's what I need. And then I'll override the build as usual. Override the build functionality widget context. So that's what I want to override. Inside here, I am going to go ahead and return the material app, and inside my material app, I'll probably give it a title for this app, and I'm going to call it weather app. Next, I need to give a theme to it. The theme that I'm going to use is the usual that I use, theme data, and inside that I am going to primary. So the primary swatch that I'm going to use in this case is colors.blue. That's what I'm going to use. Perfect. Let's go ahead. So this closes theme data, and then one more thing that I want to do after this is I'm going to say home is weather page, the page that I have not yet created. So that's what I'm passing here. So if you're wondering what that is, close the weather material app. Next, let's create that weather page class. So I'm going to go ahead and say class weather page. That's the class name used. Extends stateful widget this time. Stateful widget. And inside that, I'll override the, not this, but override the create state weather page state create state, and that will use the weather page state. So that's the instance that will create. Now let's create that weather state page. So I'm going to go here and say class weather state page extends. This one will extend state weather page. Let's add that weather page. It's going to implement. So there you go. And then now, if for implementation, I'm going to say final. First, I need the list of all the states. So that's a list of strings, which I will call it cities. So that's the first part. So once I have my cities, I'll probably put all the cities inside here. So let's go ahead and I'm going to just start with Atlanta for now, and I'm going to fill out the rest later. Next thing that I want after this is, let's get the API key, string API key equal to, this is where I'll put the API key. Let's go ahead and get that, my API keys, and from here you can copy it and paste it here. Next thing that I want to do in this application is create a map which is string to dynamic. If you remember from one of my previous video, this will get the weather data for all my cities. And then I'll say bool is loading. This is used for to check if I'm downloading the data right now, so that I will set it to true. And then finally, not finally, but I will here override the init state function, and this one will call the super.init state, and also it will fetch my weather data. Fetch weather data. The reason it's giving me an error right now here is because I don't have that function defined yet. So let's go ahead and create a future void. It doesn't return anything back. We will have in sync. So in the fetch weather data, that's my function. I'm going to call it here and say it's an async because I want it to go back in a different thread and run this and get the weather and not block my user UI state. So I have this. Inside this, I'm going to say is loading equal to true. So since it's downloading now, fetching data, I'm going to set that to true. Next one is I'm going to create a map of string comma dynamic, because we don't know what type of data we'll get back, data equal to empty array. Now for each and every city that we have, for us luckily we have only one city right now. For string city in cities, that's our array that we created earlier with only one city in there. Where is that gone? Where I created, where I added Atlanta to it. Why can't I see it? Okay, right there. I've created the cities and there I've just put Atlanta. Let's close this. So I have my, so inside this for loop, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the response response equal to await, and I am going to say http.get from that URL, and URI dot parse, because it needs a string URL which needs to be converted into URI. So that's what I've given there. Now let's get that URI API, and we said that we are going to use this get name by city. Copy this, paste it here, and another thing that we need is the metric. Not metric, it's called units, I think. Units. By default it's standard, but we want imperial, so we can display it in Fahrenheit. API key goes here, which means that the API key that we have created, $API key, is passed here. City name goes here, which means the city object that we have will pass there. So this looks complete. Good. Okay, so next thing that we need to do is if, okay, let's see if it's closed properly. Two brackets closed, two brackets closed, perfect. Now I'm going to say if, in this case, response.status case, response.status code, if it went through fine, which is, I'm going to get response code of 200, then that means data for that particular city equal to JSON decode, the function that I'll call, and I'll pass it response dot body. So that's my response body. Next I'm going to do is set state. So I'm going to set the data where weather data equal to data, and I'm going to say is loading equal to false, because now I have all the data, so I can set is loading to false. So that kind of completes our fetch data function. Next, let's create the one thing that is giving us an error, which it's saying that I'm missing the state.build. So here I'm going to override the build functionality, and inside this build functionality I'm going to return a scaffold. Inside I'm going to return a scaffold which will have the app bar, which is app bar, which has a title of this will show up on the top. So I'm going to say it's a widget with weather app. That's the data that closes the app bar. Next I'm going to say the body of this particular widget is, if it's loading then it will be a different, or else it will be something else. So I'm going to go ahead, and here I'm going to say if it's loading, then I want to create, actually it's better to take this down here. So if I'll create a centered element, then child will be a spin kit. So you can use all these different spin kit options. I'm going to use spin kit fading circle in this particular case, and that circle I will pass it colors of colors dot blue, the to match with our pattern, and I'm going to size of 50.0 in float. So that's what I'll pass here. Let's move it to the next line so it looks prettier. Close the center and close the spin kit. Now this will close the, let's see, closes that, and this closes the center. So I'll probably make sure that they are properly aligned, and then if not, I am going to create a refresh indicator where I will say I have child, and on refresh, I'm going to use this first. On refresh, I am going to say when user is asking me to refresh, I'm going to call the fresh weather function, and the child that I'll provide in this particular case is a list view, because you saw in the start I showed you what we are going to look at is a list view of all the different cities with their data. Builder, I'm going to say item count, number of items that I want in this particular list view is list item count is cities dot length. So that's what I'll pass. So it knows that depending on how many items that I have in the array, it will use that. List view dot builder. Why is it giving me an error here? Let's see, maybe because I don't have all the different parameters inside the list view of what all it needs. So that's the first thing that I need, which is item count. Next build the item. So I'm going to say item builder, and this item builder will have I'll have to pass the context, and I'll have to pass the index depending on which city it is. What it will do is first it will get the name of the city equal to cities of index, because that's where the names of the cities are. And if after I get that, I'm going to say, oh, I'll also need to get the city weather. City weather is available in weather data, pass the city to it. So it will fetch that data for us. It will get the data from that array that we downloaded. Return list tile in this particular case, and the title of that particular tile will be city tile. Oh, actually, let's put it inside, sorry, a text widget. So that will be our title, and next it needs a subtitle. Subtitle will be, let's use something that we get from the, as we saw, title and subtitle. For subtitle, we'll create if city weather is not equal to null. I'll have to check if the data is not null. I just want to say no data available. No, not equal to null, then I'll provide the data. So which I'll say question mark, create a text widget and say the data that I got was $city weather. From that I need main. So if you've looked at the API before, the thing that it provides me back is main object, which has temperature inside there. So that's what I'm going to print here, and Fahrenheit, just to show that it's in Fahrenheit. What else do I need to display? Let's display one more thing over there, which we saw was the city weather weather object. So I'm going to give the description that we saw in the API. 0 description, that's what I'll get. Let's close the array, let's close the object, close that. So that kind of takes care of this. If it doesn't give me anything, then I'm going to say text. So there's no data available, I'm going to say no data available. Okay, so that will take care of that, and then we'll close that list view here. We close this bracket for this. Okay, I think I'm missing a bracket. Then I have closing this, and then this closes my refresh indicator, and then it closes my, I think I'm missing one here, which is scaffold, this case, and then two closing brackets. Perfect. So that kind of takes care of my code, but there's still an error here. Let's look at it. The method builder isn't defined for the type list view. Oh, spelling mistake. Builder. That's perfect. That should probably take care of this. Let's put, just for the fun of it, let's put one more city in here, because I probably have to get those cities from somewhere, and that was here. I'm going to add London, Istanbul, Mumbai for now, and then let's go ahead and run that application. Flutter run. And first, let's try the Android emulator. It's built and it's installing right now, and we have the data for the four cities. Atlanta, London is cold, 56. Istanbul is 76, so warm side. Mumbai is 80. So we have all those cities right here. So similarly, if I want to run it in another device, this one here, the iOS simulator, I'll just pick number 2. It's compiling, linking, signing. Once it's done, it's installing the app, and we have the app here also. If you have that the spin kit, so that's working. You see here, that's working for here. And if I want to run it again for a browser, so in this particular case, I can select the number 5 option, which I want to run it on a Chrome browser. It will open the Chrome browser, and right here it will show me all the cities. Now this one will not have a pull down to refresh, but it has a refresh button automatically, so it will work the same way. So I have that. Now you see, that's how you build an weather app for multiple platforms using just one code base. I hope it helps. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you.